Welcome to Edenic Gardens. This is our vision, this is our dream. Come along with us. In this video, I will be sharing an update and disappointments that covers the month of December into the first week of January 2023. The bright green grass covering the field is a major encouragement to some of the setbacks we have encountered. We ran out of water. Fortunately, we were able to fill it at a friend's a few minutes away and use our water pressure pump to fill the RV tank faster. Lots of things to learn with the RV. Fortunately, none of the pipes have froze so far, even though there was water in the tank and we had below freeze weather. We did not winterize our camper since we use it off and on until we move in. But we realize that is not a good risk to take because the damage can be costly, besides inconvenient. There was a small clearing in the weather that permitted the water company to go out and install our water meter connecting from one of the main meters that had 122 psi with a water pressure pump without damaging the road. They did it from underground somehow. It didn't take them long at all. Once the meter is installed, it is then our responsibility to dig and put in the pipes for our water line. Because of our steep hill, we will need to add our own water pressure pump somewhere going up the hill, which we need to determine what would be the best spot. For now, we are holding off on this since city water is not as clean, but we'll keep this as a backup and complete it sometime after our wells are installed. We are waiting for the well diggers to come out, hopefully sometime in January, which will be used as our primary source of water. Due to the amount of rain, our creek was gushing with water. Such a lovely and peaceful sound, beckoning one to have a seat with a good book. Unfortunately, the creek and its surroundings have been disgustingly littered, not only with trash, but even a dead deer. It is on our to-do list to clean it up and then post some do not litter signs and cameras to discourage people from littering on our property and hopefully anywhere else. After having the same electric engineer come out twice and not providing adequate measurements and estimates, we were able to get a senior engineer after many calls, transfers, and messages. He proved to be very knowledgeable and super helpful. So we finally have the property staked out where we will need to dig out and put in conduits ourselves before the electric company can come out and feed the wires through it. Conduits are PVC pipes that go underground to protect the electric wires. We will also need to install some boxes, transformer boxes or junction boxes. They will give us one for every 400 feet. Basically, we do most of the hard work or hire someone to do it. As we drive through part of the property, you will notice the wooden stakes painted orange on the tips up to the top of the hill. This is to mark along where we will need to dig and install the conduits, and the stakes are where the electric boxes need to be put down. Lots of things that we are learning. I did not know that we would pay for utilities and have to do a lot of the installation ourselves. On the upside, it can save you a lot of money doing it yourself or finding someone reasonable and shopping around for parts. Looking on the green field as we drive in is a welcoming scene, but disappointment also greets us as we see our precious gravel being washed away. Along the left edge, a ditch should have been dug. Although we had pointed out the issue several times to our excavator, he did not make it a priority to correct. We have certainly learned a lot of things since purchasing this property and hope to be of some aid and encouragement to others. Although mistakes are likely to occur, there are steps to take to avoid as many as possible. One of the bitter lessons learned is that we must be on top of the people we hire and be there every step of the way to ensure things get done as we need them so we can avoid having to redo the job and paying extra. And that may mean to stop one task to fix the previous one. We had watched videos about people homesteading, working with raw land and such, but one of the advice given was to use road fabric before putting gravel down. Phil, a friend of ours, also suggested the same. The road fabric helps hold the gravel in place, allowing it to compact better without the gravel getting lost or disappearing in the ground, as in our case. It is also better at preventing it from being washed away. This entrance will be mainly used to get to the house. This part of the driveway will definitely need gravel and a ditch, as you can see the mud running down into the road. We haven't focused too much on this side since it will be less used, probably saved more for emergencies or such, but we will need to do something about it eventually. What a surprise that we had snow here, which is a rare occurrence that doesn't normally settle, at least not for long. I like to call it dandruff, but this settled a little. Along with snow, there was ice. It was a beautiful day, nowhere near as cold as previous days, which to me was surprising that it snowed on a less colder day. Finally, the completion of our house septic system with 500 feet of field lines to drain the septic right before the new year, so we thought. More disappointment. We had marked the area for the house and pool, which they removed a couple of the stakes and began to dig into our marked pool area. I quickly tried to stop him and spoke with the excavator, explaining that he is digging for the septic field lines into our pool area. He assured me he was not. To which I replied he was. He even removed the stake to dig. He replied that it will be fine. I asked him how are we going to put a pool here if he puts the septic field lines here, and he assured me we still would be able to. I questioned him again since I was not convinced and had a bad feeling about it. He assured me it would be fine and we would still be able to put the pool in this area, that we would still have our 10 feet distance from the septic, which he had told us was the regulation. We usually check up on things beforehand, but this one we had not, unfortunately, which was a grave mistake. He said if anything we could move the house plan forward 10 feet and it shouldn't be a problem. We weren't convinced and were concerned and should have pursued it and asked for more clarification, but we did not want to bother him further, especially since we had been waiting so long, weeks for this, so we left them to it, hoping he was right and hoping they would complete it today. We didn't want to make them feel that we were breathing down their backs as they worked. They were not able to finish putting in the field lines because it was Friday and they had to stop before sunset, and it wasn't until Monday that they would come back out. New Year's Day, we went to the land bright and early on this foggy morn since we had to meet someone here to give us a quote on parts for the electric work. Oh, how grateful we are to have this property. We are excited for the progress that will be accomplished this year, not only on our land, but within ourselves. Thinking now if it would have saved us money and frustration had we hired someone to look at the layout of the land and our ideas to give professional and practical input. But all things work for the good of those who love the Lord, so we trust that all will be well as we learn from our mistakes, seriously and more prayerfully and patiently consider the advice of the experienced, and make sure our ideas are crystal clear and well understood and the tasks are closely monitored. All in all, He is faithful and works out all things for the good of those that love Him and trust Him. We came to check out the land and take a look at the septic, and just before heading down the hill to leave, lo and behold, the septic inspector was flying up the hill to inspect our septic systems to our delight. The one for the shop she found no problem, but the house she said was missing 40 feet, which we would need to be added, then she could approve it and give us the final report. Several days prior to her arrival, we were inspecting the septic work from Friday since we had left before the workers. Confusion, frustration, and disappointment filled us. They had dug most of our pool area with field lines, completely disregarding our stakes in the ground. This would take up far more than pushing the house up 10 feet and would completely ruin the floor plan we have. This was unacceptable. After waiting so long for this work to be done, it was disheartening that it was not done properly, and we either had to change our plans or have them rectify the problem. although it was not comfortable to confront, and we kind of felt bad that they had to remove the lines and redig elsewhere. That is what needed to be done, especially since we had been very specific multiple times and questioned over and over regarding the location where not to dig. They already had to fix several feet once, which is probably why the 40 feet was missing. And even though the last time my husband spoke up and explained a few times, it still was not clear enough. They fixed part of it, but didn't leave the 10 feet in between the field lines where we had staked to dig for the pool. And upon inquiring on the internet, as well as a builder friend, we discovered that the state regulation is in fact 25 feet distance between the field lines and the underground pool. We decided to remeasure and restake the pool area and the house, giving the 25 feet allowance we discovered we needed to have. The day we met the septic inspector by chance, we had come to the land to grab hitch keys to remove the hitch off the ram we were selling that day. It's interesting how things worked out. We had put the for sale signs on the ram and placed it on Facebook Marketplace. Weeks had gone by, and then we received a recall notice which led us to take the truck into the nearest dealer. My husband wisely decided to leave one of the for sale signs on. Upon dropping it off, one of the employees noticed it and relayed it to one of the sales rep, who then called inquiring my husband about it. We've used the truck to haul the toy hauler from Indiana, for our tractor and implements, for the seeder, moving our belongings, as well as the diesel tank, among other things. They were very eager to purchase it since dually trucks are rare commodities these days, especially a 3500 with 6 seats and an 8-foot bed, among other specs. The deal was quick and simple. That was a high day for us. 2 major things checked off the list. Our children had really come to appreciate the ram, and this was our last time seeing it before parting with it. We bought risers for the septic tanks to make it easier to clean. The risers needed to be screwed together, but was tricky because the space between was tight, and all the tools we tried were not small enough to fit that space. Finally, my husband and our youngest son were able to find the right tool for the task. This had to be done in the shed in the middle of a thunderstorm. The contractor was trying to get the septic system completed and cover both of them before the rain commenced, but he hadn't accounted for the portion that he had to redo, and he had to go get some more supplies, including gravel, since the 3 piles we had saved were used up in this process. A disappointing day that felt wasted. There was very heavy rain that day, and it had been raining off and on for the last couple months. Since the septic tank didn't have all the hoses connected, it had collected a lot of water even though the top was covered. We switched the full concrete lid to one that has the riser adapter so we can stack the risers to facilitate future cleaning without having to dig. There was so much rain that there was flooding in the area, down to the middle of January. Here you can see our string that we used to remeasure the house trampled and caught around the bulldozer tires. Oh, happy day! The day after the storm on January 13th, we ordered all the supplies for electric underground wiring from Home Depot and then head to the power company to pick up 6 transformer or junction boxes to be installed where the orange markers are placed. On the way there and back, not far from our property, we noticed in a small section of town, many trees down, damages to roofs, and campers flipped, coming to the realization, which was confirmed, that a small tornado had come through the day before at the time that we were seeking shelter in the sheds from the severe thunderstorm. God is good all the time. Fortunately, no damage came to us and our land. or our friends and neighbors nearby. Since we haven't used the equipment in a little while and had severe cold weather, we started all of the equipment to make sure everything runs smoothly. Big Clifford came in handy with a forklift to unload the transformer boxes off the truck. A bison ranch on the way to the land. Very interesting. We finally installed the forward legs on our fifth wheel hitch since we no longer have the ram. When we purchased the hitch, we bought both ram and forward legs for it in advance. It was very cold, and my husband and boys had trouble installing it, and eventually my husband thought of using the impact gun with a compressor machine. The bolts were big, but the space was too tight, so we tried the small one and it broke. So back to the hand tool. Somehow it wasn't installed correctly because it was not fitting in the truck bed perfectly and the instructions were not clear. So we had to unscrew it by hand in the cold and rescrew it. Now, ready to hitch the toy hauler, which is always a bit nerve-wracking since it's such a huge vehicle and it takes time to make sure all goes smoothly. Our toy hauler needed to be transported to Camping World to install an awning that we had been waiting for months to come in, and to check a few minor things, including the shower faucets that busted out when my husband turned it on just to check the pipes. Fortunately, all the other pipes and faucets were perfectly intact. All went smoothly with this portion, thankfully. We made it safely to Camping World, albeit very late and everyone hungry since we hadn't even eaten breakfast. Finally, on the 16th, the septic system was complete. And now for some dry weather to dig and install the conduits. And hopefully the wells can be dug soon. We're still on the waiting list for that. Stay tuned for the next step continuing the installation of utilities. Thanks for joining us. Remember to like and subscribe. Philippians 4:19. And my God will supply every need of yours according to his riches in glory in Christ Jesus.